Okay, let's begin by, of course, I'm going to send you this document as soon as we finish the lesson, inshallah. I'm going to explain every part of it, and then I'm going to give you an exercise to do just to apply like we usually do in the lesson. Okay, the first thing you should know is what is the purpose of the report. Then we said before that every piece of writing has a particular purpose. So the purpose of the report is to give information. So it's an informative piece of writing. It's not argumentative and it's not entertaining. It's very informative. You are simply giving information, and it should be thus written very formally. Okay, and usually a report asks for you to suggest to the reader perhaps methods of improvement. We're going to take a typical question that comes in the exam and show how these suggestions or recommendations, it's an essential part of the report. It can come as a conclusion or it can come as a recommendation. Whatever it is, it depends on the question. Okay, reports are a mixture of fact and opinion, but it's not a personal opinion. Again, to compare it with an article is totally your point of view and your argument and side you're on. Okay. Okay. Yusuf, you're back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, حبيبي. All right. فاحنا قلنا إن reports are a mixture of fact and opinion. بس لما نيجي, we're going to stop here a second at opinion. Opinion is not a personal opinion. When I come actually to explain to you a review, في فرق كبير قوي. لأن review is nothing but a personal opinion of the writer. Okay? In the difference between the report and the review مثلا كالآتي. And مثلا, suppose for example, in that a new cinema facility opened in your city. So you were asked to write a report on this new facility and recommend how it can become better. كده a report. لو أخذنا the same topic وقلنا in that a new cinema opened in your city, write a review, ده معناتها إن أنا رحت and I am putting my own personal opinion. What was good about it and what was not good about it. ده الفرق ما بين report مثلا والreview. Okay? So a report احنا اتفقنا إن هي it is extremely informative and it's not written as a personal opinion. So I do not use the first person or I, perhaps in the end when you just make the recommendation. So the information gathered is like it's gathered from everyone around you. So make sure that whatever you write, it's usually in the third person. You are reporting what other people's opinions are. Okay? And the language you use will depend on the audience the report is for. احنا قلنا the audience, it's most probably going to be in a formal style. Okay, and طبعا, of course, the thing that alienates a report from other pieces of writing is that they have headings. Each paragraph or each item that you write, it has a separate heading or a subheading. Okay, the next part of this document is how the grades are given. So the grades are given for content, and that usually covers 8 marks. And the content covers relevance, whether the piece fulfills the task. Did you read the question? Are you aware of the purpose? You know that it's informative فقط. Are you aware of the audience? You have to see who it's written to. Are you aware of the register? So depending on who you write it to, that it determines whether your register is going to be formal or informal, and I'm telling you that 99.9% it's formal. And my 8 marks also is for development of ideas, is giving the details and the explanations for each point and not repeating the same point in other words. And this is a mistake that usually most students do. Most students think that when you rephrase your point or your reason, يبقى كده أنا عملت development. No. Make sure that I'll show you a very simple way to make sure that your development is perfect in order for us to get the best grades. Like the language هنا طبعا of course is out of 8, and the language covers range, which is complexity of vocab, and طبعا of course, like I've always been saying, the complexity of sentence structure, the variation, your ability. We've learned how to create complex sentence structures like appositives and beginning my sentences with ing and ed and inserting phrases and making lists and all this. And this is what gets the grade actually. Okay, and طبعا accuracy of grammar, spelling, punctuation, and of course your text organization. So we have several things actually that we need to take care of. فدي بالنسبة دي هنقرأ المارك سكيم دي هنقراها not only for the report, but we're going to read it also for the review, and we're going to read it for the article. It has the same mark scheme. Okay? Tips for writing a report. Language. Think about, or the audience that the report is for. The tone of the report should be formal. Use linking words which suit a formal type of writing, such as firstly, furthermore, in conclusion. Use reported speech rather than direct speech. Reported speech because you're getting the information from someone else and you're putting it into your report. So it has to be reported. Okay, this is what this means. And طبعا use correct spelling, punctuation, and grammar. The next step for the organization, a report should be well organized and clear. Each paragraph should cover a different aspect of the report. A report should follow a 3 or 4 part structure, اللي هي introduction, the summary, the findings, and the conclusion. This should include recommendations, solutions, or suggestions. Okay, طبعا of course, and I have a template that I'm going to show you in order to be able to write the perfect report. وأنا بالنسبة لي أنا students perfect the report. It always ends up in the end that it's a 14 out of 16. Okay, usually the problem is with the report and then أقسمها إزاي. But then again, you should not have a problem if you plan. I always ask my students to plan before they write. العملية بتبقى بسيطة جدا. All I have to do is read the question, and on the little blank underneath, أنا كل اللي بعمله إن أنا I just like throw arrows. Okay, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to write about this. ببص ألاقي إن that when I think, I give myself 2-3 minutes to plan before I write, ببص ألاقي إن الريبورت بيتكتب في أقل من تلت ساعة. If I don't plan before I write, it takes longer, and usually students repeat ليه؟ لأن there is no plan. In order to just not do that, okay? So you plan usually, what are the points you're going to include? الميزة في الريبورت إن الانترودكشن بتبقى ثابتة جدا. There is no creativity actually in the introduction of the report. It's very straightforward. Okay? Let's go to a typical question. أنا لعبت فيها شوية طبعا علشان شلت البubbles. علشان even in my past papers that you're going to get, I just don't do this. بشيلهم. Because the more you do not use what's written in the bubbles given, the more grades you get. ودي, it is a fact. Okay? So you should learn not to look at the bubbles. I always tell my students something. Okay, they always tell me, إيه طب هم حاطينهم ليه؟ هم حاطينهم for the mediocre student who is not able to think of their own ideas. D number one. Number two, I can read them. But then I can read them only to make sure that I'm on the right track. But I do not use them. I do not even rephrase them. Okay? طيب, a typical question, like we said, اللي هي الحتة دي. Please, many students just don't actually read this part. So I'm telling you how important it is. Your class recently went on a trip to a large recycling center. Your teacher has asked you to write a report on the trip. In your report, say what you learned from the trip and suggest how it could be improved if it's repeated next year. Okay? طيب, first things first, and I look at my audience, I find that it's my teacher. Okay? طيب, أرجع تاني to the explanation of Cambridge. Here it says, once you have read through the question instructions, you will need to reread the comments provided, as these may give you some ideas, and I'm telling you don't. Read them to see whether you're on the right track or not, but I will not use them. The purpose of the response is to write about the trip and make suggestions of how it could be improved. يبقى كده أنا, this is the purpose. Give information about the trip and suggest how it could be improved. The audience is teacher. The comments may give you okay. The response to this question needs to be in the form of a report for a teacher. So the register is formal. بس خلاص. ابتدي افكر. طيب I went to a large recycling center. What I learned المفروض what I learned from the trip. Okay, I have two ways to do this. Either to give a subheading what we learned رسم. يا إما أقسم what we learned into subheadings. Both are acceptable and both are okay. فأنا ممكن إن أنا الريبورت بتاعي يبقى شكله عامل زي ده كده. Okay, this is a template. And I have to have a title. This is the only writing that needs a title. And then I have my subheadings. Okay. And each subheading, it should have a very curt, very concise, very straightforward explanation. Or I can have it like this, and this is طبعا of course with the Cambridge, اللي هي title and subheading introduction, subheading findings, subheading conclusion. According to this candidate response, the candidate was awarded 14 marks out of 16. Why not full mark? We'll read on why. Please stop me anytime if you have any question or if what I'm saying you need a little bit of explanation. Okay, فهنا طبعا of course it's written a visit to the recycling center. The candidate uses a clear heading relevant to the topic of the report. The heading of a report needs not to be very creative. A visit to the recycling center, improving our gym, the school canteen. That's it. Come in. Now, in introduction, what should be in the introduction should be the main reason why actually the trip was done, or the main reason for your writing. Okay, so here the introduction. Last week our class visited the recycling center in our town. The main reason for this trip was to make us more aware of the importance of recycling in our school and our local area. I can begin the report in a different way, all right, which is also correct. The purpose of this report, here this is another type of introduction. The purpose of this report is to assess the school trip that was done to the recycling center at مش عارفة ايه downtown, okay, and suggest some ways to improve the trip if it were to be done next year. بس okay, ففي العملية الintroduction is really very straightforward. Do you have any questions up to now? Well, you were both good.
No, I don't.
You're okay?
No question.
Okay, I'm done. Did this thing stop recording? أنا حاسة كده إن it stopped recording.
It's still
I have
recording.
no idea. Okay, good. Okay, so let's go with the findings. All right. The findings, as you can see, the beginning of the findings is very straightforward. We arrived at the recycling center at 9:30 a.m. and were met by the recycling center manager. Firstly, we watched a short video about the impact of waste on the environment and how damaging certain materials can be, especially to wildlife. After the video, we had a tour of the center. Here we saw how plastic, glass, paper, and tin were separated and processed. In the education room, we saw new products made from recycled materials, like pencils made from old newspaper and even clothes made from recycled plastic bottles. It was great to see what new products can be made out of the things we throw away. هنا طبعا, of course, the candidate uses formal linking words to show order. As you can see, this is the first linking word to indicate that this is the first thing that we did. After the video is the second point. Notice that he began actually with a prepositional phrase. Open the sentence differently with a prepositional phrase. After the video, this is sentence variation. This is what I've been trying to tell you or teach you or show you, that every time you vary your sentence opening, actually it indicates that a new point is being written. تاني حاجة, notice the distance between the first linking word and the second. The space that is provided shows that there is development of idea. Okay? Notice each sentence is different than the other. Lists of threes and lists of fours were given. Instead of just rattling on with different sentences, they were put as a list, which is the one, like I keep telling you, very advanced method of sentence variation. Examples were given and very appropriate. Even the vocab is relevant and shows good understanding of the topic of recycling. That's all what they mean. Conclusion from my trip, again, the opening of the sentence is different with a prepositional phrase. Okay. Clear conclusion that summarizes the earlier point raised. I found out I can use I because the recommendation comes actually solely from your personal opinion. Notice how the findings were written in we, okay? We, because it was actually a trip done by students themselves. And the we hina means that this is what everyone did. From my trip, I found out that lots of things that I throw away can be recycled, such as batteries, light bulbs, and metal. Also, the video made me much more aware of the importance of recycling. But unfortunately, the trip was too short. We didn't manage to visit every part of the center, which would have been even more interesting. The candidate suggests how the trip could be improved for next time, which links clearly to the question and the format of the report. الغلطة اللي هنا most students perhaps do إن طالما نقال إن recommendations how it could be improved كل اللي بيعملوه إن هم بيقعدوا يرصوا negative things thinking that this is what is required. This is not right. I can't say that the trip was successful. All this was successful and we learned all this. وبعدين أجي في الآخر أرص negative, 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 negative. Notice how the negative was sort of like intermingled with the positives. What I learned and then how to improve, the only thing that I didn't find done well on the trip. Okay, let's see how the candidate could have improved their answer. A clear answer, you know what, I'm right here. A clear answer that showed good understanding of the format of report writing. The candidate responded well to the task, clearly explaining the day and offering some interesting details about specific aspects of the visit. There were some instances where interesting vocabulary was used, specifically impact and damaging. Notice that the vocab is formal, okay, not too complicated because you want people to understand your writing, but actually it's more sophisticated vocab, this is what I call it, that showed a higher level of language, but this could have been developed throughout. It means that it was required of the student to not just write two words that were actually of a higher level of vocab, but needed to be a little bit more than that. The candidate did structure the work, as could be seen from the use of linking words, but some of the sentences were quite simple, so the candidate should think about using a wider variety of sentence types for the next time. Common mistakes. Candidates often write a report like a summary and will just recount the events of the day or the place where they live in a very simplistic manner. يعني معناتها إن that there's no development of idea, مجرد رص or just listing main ideas. Candidates must remember that they are presenting their findings in order to suggest that something could be changed or improved. Therefore, they should not focus too much on the individual details of what they did or how things are, but should focus on what they discovered and how these discoveries have informed what they would like to happen next. Another problem can be the use of subheadings. These should be used to make the writing clear to the reader what the sections are and what can be found in each section. And I always encourage this one. Some candidates will use subheadings which do not match the content of the paragraph, but I'm sure that both of you will not do that. So they should be encouraged to reflect on how the subheading can be used to show what the paragraph is about in a clear way. طيب. Now, this is the document that was actually given from Cambridge. Let's take a look at how it actually should be done in order for the report. It's not that difficult. Okay. The question here says, I have plenty of model answers actually for you to read. I have something like 4 or 5 different model answers to be read. But let's just read the first one just to show you how it should be done. The question says, the gym you work for has been losing members recently and would like to know why they are leaving. The gym manager has asked you to write a report about why these customers are leaving. In your report, you should specify what the problems are and should give recommendations for improvement. طبعا, there are 2 ways. Okay, this is the task. Okay, in your report, you should specify what the problems are and should give recommendations in the end. All right. Another 2 ways actually to tackle this. We are aiming for a high grade. فأنا ممكن قوي إن أنا أرص البروبلمز. Okay. وبعدين في الآخر أجي أعمل recommendation with how to solve these problems or suggestion how to improve these problems. Okay. دي طريقة. الطريقة الثانية إن أنا to provide under each heading what the problem is and to offer the solution right after it. Okay, and I have 2 ways to tackle these. All right, if the question allows it, طبعا everything depends on what the question is. فهنا طبعا the introduction, like I said, the title is given very brief. Introduction, the aim of this report is to explain the main reasons why members are leaving the gym. After interviewing some clients, we have identified some serious problems. فهنا طبعا, of course, the person writing this report قاعد يفكر what could be problems in the gym that could make customers leave it. And he came up or she came up with 3 main problems. And each problem is put under a subheading. And this is what I encourage you to do when you come to write your report. تكتبوهاش بلوكة. Okay, this is the best way to actually write a good report. Notice how the subheadings are very, very concise. Subheadings are very, like even almost fragmented. They're not really sentences. Do not write subheadings as sentences. Also, the subheadings serve as the topic sentence of what's written under it. بمعنى, I don't have to repeat this at the beginning. I don't say, firstly, there are limited opening hours for the gym. لا. بخش في الموضوع على طول. Some members have complained that the gym opens a little late for them. For this reason, workers cannot exercise before going to work. ومشوا. If the gym opened at 7 a.m., clients could exercise easily before going to work. بس طبعا this is a complex sentence ورحت قلب الإف في الأول. عملت a very good linking word, different. All right, and I offered the solution. Likewise, the changing rooms, برضو. Many of the lockers are broken, so customers cannot leave their belongings in a safe place. Also, some of the showers are not working properly, so members have to queue before having a shower. In order to solve this, طبعا دي معمولة بطريقة تانية خالص, I suggest replacing all lockers and showers immediately. Notice that the variation of the structure that is used under each heading gives an interesting and good flow of reading. This is what you should be aiming for. Structure your sentences differently. Structure your paragraphs differently. Each one should have a unique style of their own. The more you're able to do that, طبعاً, of course, the more you hit the higher tier in the mark scheme. Lack of parking spaces. Some previous members have joined gyms which have a parking lot. Although we cannot build a parking lot, we could offer a parking area for bicycles. As a result, this might encourage members to use their bikes to come to the gym. Okay? بما إني أنا I did not actually ما حطيتش هنا recommendation, حطيت conclusion. To sum up, I believe that if we take care of these problems, members will be happier and will decide to stay with us. This is the way to write a good report. Okay? Now, this is the other type اللي هي بحط recommendations كلها في الآخر. فهنا your college has just published the latest issue of the new college magazine. The organizers are interested in knowing what students thought about it, so they have asked you to write a report. This is my task. In your report, you should talk about what the students liked and disliked about the articles, the sports section, and the news section. Then you should make suggestions on how to improve the magazine. دي already متقسمة لي. طبعا, of course, my title, The New College Magazine, very straightforward. مفيش أي فن. Do I get marks for the title? This is a very common question I get. Do I lose mark for the title? Very common question. It's part of the organization of a report. Just like in the email, you have to write dear at the beginning, and at the end, you have to sign off. This is part of the organization. So if the report stipulates that you have to have a title, يبقى حاملها. If the report stipulates إن أنا لازم يبقى عندي subheadings, يبقى حاملها. مفيش حاجة اسمها إن طب ينفع كده؟ لا. Okay? فأنا عندي الانtroduction أهي. The purpose of this report is to outline students' opinions about the new college magazine and to make recommendations based on their views. Done. وبعدين راح مقسم بقى. هنا قال لك اكتب عن الارتكلز راح اعملها subheading. اكتب عن sports section اعملها subheading. اكتب عن news section اعملها subheadings. And then suggestions on improvements راح اعملها subheading on its own. Okay? This was also done. Most students thought I'm supposed to write what they liked and what they disliked. In the articles, most students thought the articles were interesting and well written. The latter, however, indicates that I'm going to switch. They did not talk about modern topics. Notice in in formal writing, ما كتبش however, what they disliked is, لا, however, automatically indicates in I'm going to turn my sentences around. I'm contrasting now. However, they did not talk about modern topics. So some students found this part of the magazine a little boring. Sports section. It is thought that the sports section is good, but most articles were about football or basketball. But هنا برضو indicates contrast. This is not a good thing because most of our sporty students play rugby, not football or basketball. The news section, many students complained about the news section because it only focused on news about the college. These students were expecting to read some news about the city too. فده مش معناتها كمان إن أنا هلاقي كل حاجة everything they like. No, هما they didn't like the news section at all. But there's no problem in أنا أكتب إن هما they didn't like it at all. Recommendations. In order to solve the problems above, I recommend taking some measures. طالما firstly أنا رصاهم 1 article, 2 sports, 3 news. يبقى my firstly is about the articles, my secondly is about the sports, and my finally is about the news section. اسمها organization. Firstly, article writers should focus more on technology and other modern issues. هنا مكتوب modern topics, هو قلبها modern issues عشان يعمل variation. Secondly, we should consider writing more about rugby and less about other sports. Finally, we should include some news about our city. If we do these things, the magazine will appeal more to our students. Done. Very brief and very straightforward, very formally written. Yani, if this is followed, then expect not less than a 15 out of 16 in your report, which actually is not bad. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to this one. Let me show you the rest of the document. برضو علشان خاطر. Okay, here I have some useful language that could be used in introduction. If you want to write about introduction, you can use this as requested. The report is intended to, this report looks at or describes, it is based on the request. This report was written based on the request of our teacher. My findings are presented below. The aim of this report, the purpose of this report is to, طبعا useful language if you're reporting an observation, quoting according to, speculating, it may, could, well, okay, this could be written in the recommendation part, generalizing, commenting, interestingly, surprisingly, curiously, predictably, etc. You can do recommending, useful, summing up. All this can be actually used as such useful language. The more you write, طبعا, of course, reports, the more you develop your own style, unique style of writing. And this is the only way actually to get an excellent grade, is when you have your own way of writing. طبعا, of course, sorry. طبعا, of course, your reasons and how they are actually written, or the reasons you give, they actually form a very important part of the grades you get. Okay? لو أخذنا مثلا الريبورت ده, الquestions دي. Okay? طبعا, this is a template. I always let students begin with this عشان خاطر بس نشوف الدنيا عاملة ازاي. You are a high school student. You have been asked to write a report on the school canteen and suggest ways that would make it more popular with the students. طبعا عندي مشكلة في السكول canteen in that students do not use it, and therefore it is not popular with them. Not popular means they do not go there, they do not visit it, they don't buy from it. فطبعا I write, this is a plan, but you're free actually to do it whichever way you want, but it just gives you an idea of how to do it. Title should be very brief. Introduction, short, state the purpose of the report. The purpose of the report is to, and or you can formulate your own direct and brief, short, curt introduction. But make sure that in your introduction, the purpose of the report comes from the question, D number 1, and it should give a clear indication of every part of the question. طبعا before how to make it more popular, there was a little brainstorming. So this one actually brainstormed and thought that the talk about the location and the snacks and beverages and the prices. Notice that the subheadings are very general. Okay, if you come, for example, and write prices are high, this is the only thing you can talk about. If you say snacks and beverages are not مثلا good enough, you cannot say otherwise. So keep your subheadings general so that you're able to write a lot of things. يعني مثلا, for example, in snacks and beverages, هنا مدي hint. The canteen offers a variety of eateries for the students. However, these eateries are not on the healthy side. I think there could be a vast improvement if students were offered healthy food such as done. فأنا فتحت الباب شوي علشان خاطر إن أنا يعني I do not write everything negative because أكيد الكانتين في حاجة positive also. Okay, but there is an issue about them using it. يعني مثلا in the conclusion, in general, the school canteen is appropriate. The school canteen is appropriate is the most, يعني, I don't want to say okay, طبعا. In general, the school's canteen is appropriate. However, to make it more accessible to the students, I would recommend, وهنا طبعا, I would love it if you do a list of threes. So I would recommend relocating it, offering more food, more healthy food, and reducing prices. اللي هي التالتة. And go in the order عشان تبقى well organized. This is the best way actually to write the report. طيب, do you have any questions? يلا اسمع your questions. Questions?
هو أنا تمام ما عنديش question.
ما عنديش أسئلة.
Okay. Abdullah, you okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now what I'm going to ask both of you to do, and then we're going to discuss it. I'm going to ask you to write a report, and I'm going to put it online for both of you, correct it together, in order for you both to see the comments and the grades, okay? The question, I'm going to take the question actually that came from the Cambridge and Homa. They asked us to write about. In class learners only, write a report about the facilities for young people in your local area and how they can be improved. This is a typical question. خدوا بالكم من حاجة إن that you should be aiming for young people. Now, before you begin writing, like I said, please plan. Which facilities am I going to talk about? In order to reach the 150 to 200 word, I need at least 3 subheadings. Okay. And then you can write it in whichever format. You want to show, you want to write about a facility, about something that young people can enjoy in the local area. You can write it, and you can write the suggestion on how they could be improved right after it. And then in the conclusion, you do sum up. Or you can use the other format اللي هي to indicate the good and then indicate if there is a problem to it. لأن طبعا we need 150 to 200 words. Okay, and remember that writing everything negative usually is too artificial. You have to make your writing as authentic as possible, very realistic. Okay? So always think of this, put this in your head in order to come up with the model or the ideal report. So you can use either formats that I showed. Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording now until we go back to, you write it, send it, I download it, and then I'll go back and record how we're going to correct it together, both of you. Okay? أديكوا قد إيه؟ 20 minutes?
هو كان take it as a homework عشان يعني اقراها تاني عشان انا مش هعرف اجمع اعمل كل ده دلوقتي، يعني مش بعرف احفظ بسرعة كده او افهم، يعني لازم اقراها تاني واحدة واحدة واقعد اعملها كده واحدة واحدة. ممكن ولا هيبقى صعب؟
No, I'm okay with that. Abdullah, what about you?
محتاج اراجع برضه ادرس عشان اقرا الاكزامبلز والانترودكشنز وكده.
Okay, all right. طيب يعني both of you will send them to me at, مثلا at the end of the day.
Okay.
أبعت لكم ده دلوقتي وهتبعتولي at the end of the day the things. ولا هنعمل إيه بالظبط؟ I want to send you this thing. Just stop the recording.